Howdy, I'm Clint Walker and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint. I'm Randy Hansen. Welcome to this a special GVTV News for Channel 11 Comcast until further notice. The station is in its final stage of moving to Providence Mine Road in Building N3 in Grass Valley's Group's complex. Due to downtime to move the servers, the following message will loop for a week or up to a couple months until regular broadcasting continues in the new location. GVTV News will still be doing content on GVTV.org, our own news station, broadcast on the net. We will still upload to Facebook, YouTube, Blip.tv, and a video podcast on iTunes, so you can get regular content on the web. Before our scoop of the century, we would like to thank our favorite underwriter for their unwavering support. This real fact story is to inform our Nevada County community about the real story behind the leaving of Paul Menicucci, the executive director, and myself from NCTV Digital Media Center. In order to draw this picture, we should have a brief history of the organization in the past few years. FCAT, or Foothill Community Access Television, used to operate from Grass Valley at Mount St. Mary's. Back then, the entire operation received around $12,000 a year to operate, as that was the original agreement with Comcast Cable. A percentage of cable fees collected were then given back to the city of Grass Valley yearly, and then they would periodically release a small amount of the funds to FCAT. It was actually around $90,000, but $12,000 is what FCAT got. Back then, Miles Everett was the executive director, and staff consisted of Terry Hicklin. The entire operation ran from volunteers from the community, many of who produced weekly or monthly content for the station. Miles was an excellent planner, and he started organizing the station by renegotiating the yearly contract with Comcast with community involvement, and with the help of the Buskey Group, this new contract was thought to be able to generate several hundred thousands of dollars yearly for the operation. Many people can remember the rocky road that FCAT traveled and the hoops they jumped through to even get to $12,000 yearly allotted, and the city was choking the organization by allocating smaller amounts of the monies in quarterly chunks to the station. The fact of the matter was that out of the almost $100,000 yearly contractual monies that the city received from Comcast, a large balance of that money was diverted to the Grass Valley Police Department and other city entities. Terry McIntyre, the school superintendent at the time for the school district, had offered to bring FCAT into the school district's fold and reinvent the station at the new location, 400 Nevada City Highway, behind the Imaginarium in Nevada City. Knowing that maybe $300,000 to $500,000 yearly might be coming down the pipeline from cable user fees and the economy slowing, this would be a boon for the school system. This is where NCTV Nevada County Television began, and FCAT was abandoned, and a new board was appointed by the Grass Valley City Council. This board had 9 members, consisting of 2 members assigned by the City of Grass Valley, 2 members assigned by the City of Nevada City, and 1 member assigned by the Board of Supervisors, Nevada County. They would take 4 community members to fill the board. They would pick them themselves. This meant that 5 of the 9 members of the original board were employees of some type of governmental organization of Nevada County. They handpicked 4 people from the community that would always be outvoted by the government-controlled board members. This was a school district-run program. This was also the beginning of the government control of our community access television. The station restructured to a Monday through Friday 10 to 5 7-hour day of operation with a small 3-hour window a day for community access for production and programming, with the balance of the operational time spent for programs such as ROP for students. Station only operated Monday through Friday, not like FCAT that was open 24/7 to the community. Like all government-controlled entities, the organization plodded along with no actual growth and, in fact, had a large loss of community-based programming due to the unfriendly access options in the beginning of this location. School district was waiting for the golden egg of monies coming down from the negotiations through the Buske Group that Miles Everett had pioneered, and then the economy started really lagging. The amounts of monies that did show up were well below expected levels, and the cost of running the new operation with Executive Director Lou Sitzer, Bill Carquist, the engineer, and Terry Hicklin ballooned with operational expenses, and then the costs started eating into the education system budget, and Terry McIntyre resigned. Executive Director Sitzer also resigned, and his mentor teacher of ROP classes, Mike Lamarca, became the next executive director. He was a young, energetic man with a lot of energy, and then NCTV separated from the school district and formed NCTV Digital Media Center. That is what now exists. In comes the new director, Paul Manicucci. Paul, with extensive background of working in California's political arena in Sacramento for over 20 years, and also working with the California Arts Council, and with strong commitments to media and teaching, was the visionary needed to project public access back into its place in the community as the media center. Early in Paul's operation, sadly, Bill Carquest, the engineer who built NCTV Studio, died, and about 80% of the knowledge of how the station was wired was gone. No new engineer was affordable, so Paul, with the help of Jay Kusa, one of the board members who had extensive engineering background, would troubleshoot the equipment. Jay spent several hours a month trying to figure out how the station servers were wired from the Bill Carquest days. Paul knew the digital media and the internet needed to become the capital arm of the business, and started the process of using Ning sites to promote communities of interest that would bring new content, viewers, and producers from the community and help business growth as well in Nevada County. He also hired me as special events coordinator so that we could go out into the community and make the presence of the station known and respected like other media outlets such as KVMR, KNCO, the Union, things like that. The first big project was Thursday Night Markets, where GVTV News and NCTV co-produced an 8-week, 60-minute live show from downtown Grass Valley with a lot of help from the people at the station. Each of these shows had 3 special guests that included mayors, board of supervisors, sheriffs, police chiefs, business leaders, and many high-profile community members. Interviews along with town businesses, walk-ins, interviews, vendors, bands, and other event happenings locally. Many other projects were done to bring awareness to the community, like Nevada Union Unplugged, Indigenous Peoples Days, Save the Parks, Michael Moore interview, Amy Goodman talk, Aaron Neville concert, and Dumpster Funk, Italian Festival 2010 and 2011, President John Trudell and Wild and Scenic Film Festival 2009 and 2011, with 2.5 days of feed on each one of those. We also created a DVD for the Board of Supervisors for several nonprofits in the community. The building that the station was in was owned by the U.S. Army, and it used to be an armory. Due to the budget cuts, the Army has been cutting loose with buildings and property not needed, so they could sell this and raise money. NCTV needed to move, and Paul negotiated a very intricate deal with Grass Valley Group to share one of their buildings and put together a move to the new location. Cutting costs from the first estimates of build-out were extreme, more than $40,000 saved with Paul's astute business dealings. Also, strong ties were made with many local electronic companies such as Grass Valley Group, AJA, Telestream, and others. At this point, the board had 10 members, as most board positions were filled with consideration of skills for some problems. It didn't include raising funds. This was and is the biggest issue the organization faces. Of these board members, 3 of them actually ever had contact with the operation of the station. The rest would come to the board meetings once a month. All along this process, the board chair, Susan Rogers, micromanaged his every move, Paul's, and when he resisted, the board started forcing his everyday operations into a policy of board approval format. The board also had at least 5 closed-door meetings, and then, as this important move was in the middle of its process, the board decided to release a statement saying that Paul Manicucci had resigned. This was far from the truth. They also then put out to bid for an interim director to replace Paul, and the application time period was 4 days, which shows that the future interim had already been selected. Several very qualified people stepped forward to apply for this position: Penelope Curtis, Gil Dominguez, and little old me. All of us are hands-on with many years' experience in video, editing, production, nonprofits, long-term local commitment to public access in Nevada County. Selection process was swift, and the decision was to bring a former staff worker from a couple years ago that had worked in the office, Emma Santa. Has a fair academic background in web design and had been a GVPD dispatcher for some time. Without direction, the station was and is in turmoil. Many of the fine-tuned plans for the move were thrown into chaos. Without a hands-on person in this mix with such a complex changeover is a mind-boggling decision. The board never raised any monies from the community and relied solely on the income from the Comcast fee money and contracts for airing government meetings for the Board of Supervisors, Nevada City Council, and Grass Valley City Council. Some local businesses that have been on board for years as underwriters have continued to support public access TV, and one new business climbed on the board last year, but no real effort in this direction by the board. Most of the monies from Comcast monies is for the capital side, allocated to equipment and operations. Someone like me who worked 60 to 80 hours a month for a $215 per month salary are not affordable. With a yearly budget close to $90,000, the organization could not afford my $215 per month salary. With no real plan for community involvement and no structure by the board to help build an informative and community-based organization, the future seems to be pretty bleak. The next move will be to downsize more of the office personnel, consisting of Terry Hicklin, 15 hours a week, Carolyn Ivy Cohn, 20 hours a week, and Gail Woodman, 15 hours a week, and myself, well, I'm already gone, 5 hours a week, and Spence Stokel, 20 hours a month, and he's gone. Regardless of actual paid hours, office workers usually spend double those hours on the job, and in my case, maybe up to 4 times. Understand, we do this for the love of the creation of local free public television and the production that comes with it. In retrospect, the organization was and is controlled by an inept board that has no idea how the actual station operates. Having no contact with the community by promoting NCTV and the Digital Media Center, and pulling the plug on the vision of the future by axing the staff in the middle of the move. They have not raised monies for NCTV, and this should be on any board's #1 priority. If the board really cared about public access and the community, they would have tried to put a vision out there. They haven't and seem to want to rely on volunteers for free labor and input, and this recipe is doomed for failure. They want a free handout to provide you, the community, with media. We who actually produce content and understand the importance of open dialogue for the entire community that is not censored like mainstream media and allows us all freedom is in jeopardy. Dedicated individuals like myself are now on the outside looking in, and it's a shame that the board disconnected from the ideals and visions that NCTV Digital Media Center should have been. Paul Minicucci was the intelligence and the power to steer this visionary dream into a reality. Now the wind is gone from the sails. I have only 2 solutions at this point. One is to tell the community part of this factual story, hoping that the public will come to the aid of themselves for future programming and success, and 2, revamping my own internet outlet for local content through Grass Valley Television that will be expanding our vision, which is quite different from the powers at NCTV. And we welcome other producers to bring us your content, as we are already airing a digital media center at grassvalleytelevision.com. We also stream 24/7 online at this site. You will also continue to see GVTV news on gvtv.org, Facebook, YouTube, blip.tv, iTunes with the free podcast on a daily basis. And while that's it for our tasty tidbits of drama for this week, we will keep you posted. And before we end the show, we would like to thank a couple of our underwriters who support us, the only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Monday, 8:12 a.m. A caller from East Main Street reported a stalker. 11:45 a.m. Caller from Sutton Way reported a man who kept coming into the store for samples. He could not be located. 12:18 p.m. Caller from Rhode Island Street and Brighton Avenue reported tagging on an electrical box. 1:10 p.m. Caller from 300 block of Columbia Avenue reported solicitors. And 2:57 p.m. a man from 2000 block of Ridge Road reported a woman who might have been under the influence just picked up a child. She was cited on suspicion of being under the influence of a controlled substance. And 3 p.m. a caller from Condon Park reported juveniles smoking marijuana who were gone when officers arrived. And 3:39 p.m. a woman from 300 block of Bennett Street reported the theft of a cell phone. And 6:54 p.m. caller from 1900 block in Nevada City Highway reported a man washed his hands in a soda fountain and used all the paper towels. At 7:16 p.m. caller from 100 block of Harris Street reported a drunken man might have been injured in a fight. He sought treatment but did not want any charges. 7:31 p.m. caller from 800 block of Sutton Way reported two men stole soup and crackers. One had a receipt and the other was advised not to return. 7:52 p.m. caller from School Street reported juveniles possibly in a fight and breaking items, but they could not be located. And 8:50 p.m. caller from South Auburn Street reported a drunken man had hit his head. And 10:31 p.m. a caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported two juveniles stole alcohol. Tuesday, 5:23 a.m. caller from 400 block of South Auburn Street reported women yelling and three men were drug dealers and that she wanted them to leave. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Monday, 9:25 a.m. Caller from 26,000 block of McCourtney Road reported littering. 10:38 a.m. Caller from 10,000 block of Saucedo Lane reported theft of a letter. At 3:05 p.m. a woman from 16,000 block of Highway 174 reported her ex-husband left spike strips on her road. At 3:08 p.m. a caller from 20,000 block of Wolf Creek Road reported identity theft. At 3:22 p.m. caller from 12,000 block of Jones Bar Road reported vacant house had been broken into. And 5:21 p.m. caller from 13,000 block of Rattlesnake Road reported a residential burglary with guns, money, jewelry, and other items stolen. 6:29 p.m. a woman from 10,000 block of Logue Lane reported neighbor had cut the locks on the gate and was trespassing. A woman from the 10,000 block of Puritan Road reported her neighbor had blocked a road. At 7:06 p.m. a man from 14,000 block of Lauren Lane reported being assaulted by his landlord. At 9:23 p.m. a man from 14,000 block of Canyon Lane reported possible vandalism to a trailer. At 11:49 p.m. a caller from North Bloomfield and Graniteville Road reported a man under the influence who believes he is law enforcement. At Nevada City Police Department on Monday, 8:18 a.m. a caller from Broad and Sacramento Streets reported a man walking around with no pants on with sheets wrapped around him. At 9:47 a.m. a caller from 700 block of Zion Street reported theft of trash cans. And 5:07 p.m. a caller from Commercial and North Pine Streets reported people disturbing the peace. One was cited on suspicion of having an open container. And that's it for the blotter today. And now some thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got 'em. You like international style lunches? They got 'em. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. Bell Star Shop is a one-of-a-kind place you will find on the ridge. Steaming hot coffee and a cool atmosphere with healthy food, organic desserts, and meals available. Belle and her smile will not be forgotten the first time you visit. Warning, this is GVTV News Teapot Alert. This is not news, but a commentary of great importance. It has no affiliation of the news, but this is comment. It's time for a rant about what's going on around the world. Why are we all just sitting down while our fearless leaders are trying to decide what to do with our future? Here's a list of questions for President Obama. Why do we bail out automakers who wouldn't make an electric car? Why do we say no to legalize a harmless plant and taxing it to help the revenue of the country? Why do we inject billions into banks that raise the bar so high on loans no one qualifies, and then they give bonuses to employees with our money and starve small businesses? Where is Main Street bailout, and why didn't every citizen get some type of monetary boost? Why are we complaining our grandchildren will inherit a huge debt? They aren't going to pay it any more than we do. And what's wrong with universal money system? Who cares whose picture is on a piece of paper? And if the government creates these new expansion government jobs, how do we get rid of these temporary jobs when we recover? Why do we allow crooked politicians and lobbyists to control our country? And why do we keep using fossil fuels as a leader of the world when we know we can quit using them for cleaner energies like what the Venus Project reaches for? President Obama, why didn't you put money into the economy with the stimulus directly to the consumers so we could spend it back into businesses and help our economy? Instead, the monies went to the banks, Wall Street, and auto conglomerates who stuff their pockets and still lay off workers and choke our recovery. Why are we not on the fair tax system and stop all this illegal taxation by the IRS? Anyone with money knows how to avoid taxes through loopholes, so give us a tax that everyone would pay. These questions do not broach the main ingredient to what brought our society to this point. Mostly it's just capitalism with a lot of greed, and all of us allowed the greed to unbalance the entire program. Listening to this rant, you might think it's a typical right-winger spout-off, but no, it's not. Right or left, they both corrupt the middle. Until we start to wean off the monetary system into a resource system, we will not fix anything. In fact, if we continue on the road we are on, a nuclear holocaust will happen. You can't think that Korea, China, Iran, Pakistan, India, Israel, Cuba, Venezuela, and Russia are not all in situations that sooner or later someone will get control that has no control, and then the dominoes will begin to fall. You also can't think that inside the U.S. borders are safe from bombings, suicides, or terror attacks from enemies of our belief system. We better wake up and secure our borders and start to try to be fiscally responsible in our own country. We need to restructure the way our Congress and Senate conduct business. We need to outlaw lobbyists and perks that cause the greed that corrupts what our country stands for. But maybe we are so corrupt that we can't fix it. Maybe we are the great Satan that some cultures seem to think we are. But maybe we are the only light that can lead humanity into the future with peace and freedom for all. If we don't change our ways, we are doomed forever. Here are some other questions to ponder. Why do banks charge $20 to $30 for overdrafts in your bank account when all they really do is adjust a number in a computer? This is billions of dollars yearly scammed income from us to them. Why isn't our money backed by the same amount of gold as its value like it used to be, so we don't get runaway inflation? Why does the government borrow money from the privately owned Federal Reserve, who then charges immediate interest on this money when the government could print its own money and not pay this giant interest debt? In fact, an easier question: why does the Federal Reserve even exist? Why does the Internal Revenue exist? If the IRS withholds part of our income and then later pays part of it back to us, aren't we considered government employees? Don't we work for them? If we are the government, then we are stealing from ourselves. If we are the government, then why do we send the lowest IQ people there to work? If we are the government, then why don't they listen to anything we say? Why don't we draft the senators, congressmen, Wall Street bigwig bankers, and automobile executives into the armed services to fight for our country? After all, isn't it their turn in the barrel?